Back in 2018, Cardi B was only about 2 years into her rap career, but she was already one of the biggest names in music. Everywhere she went, people recognized her. Cameras followed her constantly, fans screamed her name in public, and every little detail about her life became news. But around that time, Cardi got some major personal news. She was pregnant. Now, for most people, that would just be a happy moment. But for Cardi, things were more complicated. She was a celebrity at the peak of her rise, and she worried about how the pregnancy could affect her career. She didn't want the public finding out too early, so she tried her best to keep it a secret for as long as possible. Then one day during NBA All-Star Weekend in Los Angeles, something happened that would eventually lead to a lawsuit demanding $24 million. While she was in LA, Cardi started feeling strange. Something about the pregnancy didn't feel right, and she decided she needed to see a doctor immediately. But because she was trying to keep the pregnancy hidden, she wanted complete privacy. So, she found a doctor willing to see her on a Saturday when the building would mostly be empty. No crowded waiting rooms. No fans taking pictures. No gossip blogs finding out why she was there. Cardi arrived at the medical building with her private security team, but even they didn't know she was pregnant. She reportedly told them to stay downstairs in the lobby while she went upstairs alone. She stepped into the elevator and rode it up to the 5th floor. And the moment those elevator doors opened, she saw a woman standing there. Her name was Ellis. Ellis worked security for the building, and apparently, she was also a huge Cardi B fan. She even had tickets to one of Cardi's concerts later on. According to Cardi's version of events, Ellis was standing there talking on the phone. Then she suddenly noticed Cardi stepping off the elevator and said something like, "Oh my God, it's Cardi B." Cardi didn't stop to talk. She just walked past her and headed toward the doctor's office. But then she noticed Ellis following behind her. And according to Cardi, Ellis pulled out her phone and started recording her. That immediately upset Cardi. From her perspective, this was supposed to be a private doctor visit. She already felt nervous about being there, and now a security guard, someone who was supposed to act professionally, was allegedly following her through the hallway while filming her. So Cardi turned around and confronted her. She basically said, "Why are you recording me? Aren't you security?" Ellis responded, "Oh, my bad." At that point, Cardi kept walking toward the doctor's office. But then she noticed Ellis following her again. So Cardi turned around a second time and asked, "Why are you following me?" And according to Cardi's side of the story, Ellis replied, "Because I can. This is my building. I do what I want." That's when the situation completely exploded. Both women started yelling at each other in the hallway. Cardi shouted things like, "Get the hell out of my face." Ellis fired back with insults of her own and allegedly threatened to throw Cardi out of the building. And apparently, both of them were cursing non-stop during the argument. Inside the doctor's office, the receptionist heard all the screaming coming from outside in the hallway. She stepped out to see what was happening and found Cardi and Ellis in the middle of this heated confrontation. The receptionist tried to separate them and calm things down, but the yelling continued. Then the doctor himself came running out after hearing all the commotion. According to testimony later on, the doctor scolded Ellis for her behavior and basically told her she needed to act professionally because she was at work. Eventually, he managed to break up the argument and escorted Cardi inside for her appointment. And after that, the whole situation seemed over. Ellis went home afterward and even took a nap. At the time, it looked like nothing more than an ugly argument between two people in a hallway. But then 2 years passed. And in 2020, everything changed. Out of nowhere, Ellis filed a lawsuit against Cardi B over the incident. And according to Ellis, the story happened very differently. Ellis claimed she was never talking on the phone when Cardi stepped off the elevator. Instead, she said she simply recognized Cardi and said out loud, "Oh my God, that's Cardi B." She also denied recording Cardi. According to Ellis, she followed Cardi because Cardi herself was causing a disturbance in the building. Then Ellis claimed Cardi suddenly became aggressive for no reason. She alleged that Cardi started sticking her tongue out, waving her arms around, and jumping up and down during the confrontation. And then came the most serious accusation. Ellis claimed Cardi spat on her. She also alleged that Cardi took a swing at her and scratched her face with one of her long fingernails. According to Ellis, that scratch completely changed her life. She claimed the injury was so severe that she had to see 2 plastic surgeons. She also said she had once dreamed of becoming a police officer, but after the incident, the emotional trauma forced her to give up on that dream entirely. Ellis further claimed that every time she heard Cardi B's music on the radio or saw her on television, she was forced to relive the traumatic experience all over again. According to the lawsuit, she suffered anxiety, depression, insomnia, and even post-traumatic stress because of the alleged scratch. She also said she never used the tickets she had to see Cardi in concert because it would have been too emotionally painful to see her in person again. And because of all that, Ellis sued Cardi B for $24 million. Now, a lot of people probably assumed the case would quietly end in a settlement. Celebrities settle lawsuits all the time just to avoid the stress and bad publicity of going to court. And Cardi already had a public reputation for being outspoken, confrontational, and willing to fight people if she got angry. So some probably believed Ellis had a chance. But Cardi decided she wasn't backing down. Instead of settling, she chose to fight the case in court. So she hired lawyers and prepared for trial. And because lawsuits move incredibly slowly, years passed before the case finally reached court in 2025. Once the trial began, Cardi testified in her own defense. She told the jury that she wouldn't physically attack someone, especially while pregnant. She also pointed out that Ellis was physically larger than her. During the trial, footage and pictures of Cardi reacting in court started going viral online. People began turning her facial expressions into memes across social media. But while Cardi's courtroom reactions became internet entertainment, things reportedly went very badly for Ellis once she took the stand. Cardi's attorneys aggressively questioned her claims. They got Ellis to admit that after the incident, she went home and took a nap. She didn't immediately seek medical treatment. She didn't go to the hospital. She didn't even put a bandage on the alleged scratch. And despite claiming the injury was severe enough to require plastic surgery, Ellis had no photographs of the injury at all. There was no visual evidence showing any scratch on her face. Then the doctor testified, and according to his testimony, he never saw Cardi hit Ellis or scratch her. The receptionist also testified and reportedly backed up the doctor's version of events. At that point, Ellis's case started falling apart. There were no witnesses supporting her accusations. No photos. No medical records presented showing a serious injury from that day. And after a short deliberation, the jury reached a decision. They found Cardi B not liable, meaning Cardi B won the case. And after years of legal drama, Ellis walked away with nothing from the lawsuit. According to the story, she had also lost her security job during all of this. And that's how an argument in a hallway during a secret doctor visit turned into a $24 million lawsuit that ultimately ended with Cardi B walking out of court victorious.